touch on the skin, your blood is cursed. And you keep... All across Cinematography, you know. That's 2 hours out, boss. Hey, watch it!
What? Hey, what's going on, party people? Welcome back to NRW. I'm your host today, Rob the Movie Guy, and I thank you very much for joining me here today because today's review is a special request by one of our viewers in Nicholas Pratt, and he had asked me to review the Netflix original movie, Hold the Dark. Now, he had asked me to review this movie back in October 2020, so I apologize, Nick, it took so long to get to this review, but I appreciate your patience, and I also thank you for this request, so this review, buddy, is going to be dedicated to you. Now, just a heads up, I'm going to be getting into some spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie and do not want to get spoiled, I recommend you pause the video right now. You can check out the movie on Netflix and then come on back to this review. So the story follows a man by the name of Russell Core, played by the actor Jeffrey Wright, who in this movie is a wolf expert primarily with wolf behavior, and he receives a letter from this mother, played by the actress Riley Keough, whose son dies in the beginning of this movie, and she tells him that a pack of wolves had killed her son, and she wants him to go find these wolves and kill them. So that's the setup of the story, but when he arrives in this town that she lives in, he discovers that things aren't really what they seem, and also discovers the dead boy's body at her home, but by that point, she is long gone, and that's pretty much the whole start of the story right there. I'm going to say this right off the bat. I do think this is a good movie, but I'm saying this with one foot in and one foot out the door because there are some things I did like about the movie, but there was a lot more that I didn't like about the film. All the major components about this movie, as far as the directing, the screenwriting, the acting, the cinematography, the score, the editing, they're all really good. I just had a problem with the story itself and some of the characters as well, but I will get into that with my negatives. But first, let's start with the positives. So the first positive I want to point out here is in director Jeremy Saulnier, who I think did a really good job in directing this movie, even though I had problems with the pacing. One little side note that I want to bring up here is that he had directed a very good movie called The Green Room, which I believe had come out back in 2015. And if you have not seen that movie, I recommend you check out that movie because it is a very good movie. And if you're a horror fan, I think you're going to get a kick out of it. I believe it's still available on Netflix right now, so if you haven't seen it, I recommend you check it out on there right now because it is really worth your time. But again, with the director Jeremy Saulnier, I think he did a really good job with the pacing of the movie, even though I personally had a problem with it, but I don't think he did a terrible job by any means. It was just that the way the story was told just didn't really click with me. The other positive I want to bring up is the screenwriter Macon Blair, who's also in the movie as well. But you can tell this guy is a very good screenwriter because you can clearly hear the authenticity that comes with the conversations between these characters, and it just sounds so real. So this guy, in my opinion, is no doubt a very good screenwriter. Another side note that I want to bring up is that the director Jeremy Saulnier and screenwriter Macon Blair, they're both from Alexandria, Virginia, and I'm originally from Arlington, Virginia, which is right next to Alexandria. So I think it's really cool that these two local boys are doing their thing out in Hollywood. And then I also discovered too that the screenwriter Macon Blair had signed on, I believe back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, that he was going to be writing and directing the remake of The Toxic Avenger. And if you've never seen that film series, that is definitely an acquired taste, but that movie is pure insanity, just balls to the wall. So I'm curious to see what he's going to be doing with that film project because having seen this movie and then him taking on The Toxic Avenger, I'm very interested to see what he's going to do, so hopefully it'll be a good movie. Now, as far as the actors are concerned in this movie, every single one of these actors in this film does a really good job with their performance. There's not a single bad performance in this movie at all whatsoever, and one of the highlights for me in this movie is pretty much the best thing about this entire film is the actor that plays the character of Cheon, whose name escapes me right now, but he is also in the best scene in this entire movie, and it involves a shootout between himself and the entire police department. And there's a beautiful setup that takes place right before that shootout scene with a conversation between Cheon and the sheriff of that town, played by the actor James Badge Dale. And in that conversation, you come to find out that Cheon's daughter had gone missing, and he had asked the department to help him find his daughter in the woods. And after one night of searching, for whatever reason, they decided not to continue on with that search to find his daughter. So you can see why this animosity he has developed through all these years towards that department was just getting stronger and stronger, hence why we get the best scene in this whole movie. because that shootout scene between Shion and that police department, you can see and feel the tension, and you can also see that everyone in that department is scared shitless. And I think it was done so beautifully with the direction of Jeremy Saulnier. Like I said before, this is one of the best scenes in this movie because I think everything that leads up to that event and the event itself was done so flawlessly, in my opinion. And as far as my remaining positives are concerned, the cinematography in this movie is really well done, and the score in this movie is actually pretty good, although it kind of reminded me a bit of Inception, but I still think it was a pretty good score. So now we're here at our negatives, and where do I begin? I've already mentioned before that I had a problem with the pacing of this story because this movie does move rather slowly. It takes time for it to build up to certain events that happen in this movie, and 90% of the time when it gets to that point, it doesn't pay off for me at all whatsoever. Because I found the film to be rather boring, with the exception of that one scene that happens in the middle of the movie, which is that shootout sequence that I was talking about earlier. The events leading up to that shootout scene was fucking phenomenal, but everything else prior to that and after that, I didn't really care for because I just found it to be rather boring. And let's also talk about the mother. We don't know why she killed her son. We do get an exposition from this local witch doctor in her village that tells Russell that she is possessed by this wolf demon called the Turnock, and that's the reason why she committed this horrible act. And we also have a conversation that the mother has with Russell Crowe about the relationship she has with her husband, played by Alexander Skarsgård. And in that conversation, she tells Russell that her husband had told her that he would never leave her or her son at all. And then he ends up joining the military and gets sent over to Afghanistan. And then she makes a comment that her husband had left her behind with a sick child, which doesn't make any sense because there is a flashback sequence that the father has, that he has a conversation with his son. And from what you can see in that conversation, the child looks to be in good health, very coherent, doesn't seem to have any sort of sickness that shows that he is too weak and he has to be taken care of all the time. I don't see any sort of mental instability with the child at all whatsoever. So I'm not really sure what she's talking about unless that conversation that the father had with his son was completely made up. But again, we are left with a bunch of questions with no answers. And that's one of the things about this movie that I also had a problem with, because there are a lot of questions that I had about what was going on, and there are not enough answers given. And I don't have a problem with stories doing that. It's just that the way this movie was executing that style of storytelling just didn't connect with me at all whatsoever. And so I can honestly say that I don't think this movie is going to be for everybody, because this movie is going to be an acquired taste. And even though I said this movie is a very good film, I still...
Hey, what's up everyone? I decided to give you a break from me talking about the movie to bring up something really important to us here. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification button as well too, because we're trying to get to our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting really close to that goal, because I think right now we're sitting at 830 subscribers, and we couldn't have done it without you guys out there. So please make sure you go out there and spread the word that is New Release Wednesdays, and tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dogs, tell your cats, tell the fucking mailman, but tell everyone out there to come and check out our channel, because there's a lot of great projects that we're working on right now, and we can't wait to share with all you guys out there. Because if you don't do so, you see my little friend over here? Yeah, he'll pay you a visit, and you don't want that because he don't fuck around. But until then, guys, you guys stay safe out there, and back to the review.
So the way I see it is, fuck it. If you watch this movie and you like it, fantastic. If you don't like the movie, then it is what it is. But as far as how I would recommend this movie, I will say this. I do think this movie is good, as I've already mentioned before. So in my opinion, I think this movie is definitely worth a shot. So my overall thoughts on this movie, as I've already mentioned before, is that I do think this is a very good movie, but for my taste, it was too boring, too slow, and I didn't find the story to be very interesting. And if you have seen the movie, let me know what you guys think of the film in the comment section down below. And I know Nick had told me that he saw the movie and liked it a great deal, so I'm curious to hear, Nick, your thoughts of this movie. So please share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And I also want to give you another shout out as well, because I want to say thank you very much for this request, because it really was a lot of fun to put this video together, and I hope you did enjoy the video as well. And if you share it with anybody else, I hope they enjoyed the video, because this was a lot of fun for me to make. And if you have any requests out there, make sure you let us know in the comment section down below, but you can also follow us on our social media accounts as well too. We have a Facebook and Instagram page at New Release Wednesdays and on Twitter at the NRW. And you can follow myself on my social media accounts on Instagram, Rob_Medina0585, on Twitter, RobMedina0585, and on Facebook, simply just Rob the Movie Guy. And until next time, everybody, thank you very much for joining me here today. Stay safe out there, and remember, cheers.